The Sun Belt is well represented at the Senior Bowl. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt. I'm your host, Dave Schultz, hosting Afternoon Sports Radio 105.5 WNSP in Mobile, covering South Alabama. Prior to that, covering the Louisiana Raging Cajuns and hosting mornings on 103.7 of The Game. Thrilled to have Executive Director Jim Nagy join us for this episode. We're talking Senior Bowl, the players on the field, mostly from the Sun Belt, and the way the fans can get involved with the Senior Bowl. There is a lot going on this week here in Mobile. We also, at the end of the episode, asked Jim to rank his favorite Reeses candies. We've already had a couple. We need to limit that because I've lost like almost 10 pounds, and it's going to go in the other direction this week. All right, today's episode is of Locked On Sunbelt is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com, Locked On today to get us started. All right, so let's just go right into it. Let's bring on Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Thrilled and honored to have Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy, with us. The Senior Bowl week and game going on this week here in Mobile. Jim, how can the fans get involved and what can they take advantage of this week as the players prepare to play in the game on Saturday?
There's a lot of ways, Dave. I would first say practice. Practice has become it's like an event unto itself. I mean, I think a lot of football, diehards have loved coming to Senior Bowl practice for years, but at Hancock Whitney, it's just there's a whole totally different vibe to practice. With the jumbotron and the LED ribbons and all the media that are here now. We credentialed over 1,000 media members, and the music. We couldn't even pipe in music at the old stadium. So practice would be one. Senior Bowl Summit would be two. Thursday night ticketed event at the Sanger Theater with great Alabama legends and Auburn legends. Joey Molinaro, the great impressionist. And Ivan Maisel is going to be doing the panel. So, on the player side, Ozzie Newsome, Sean Alexander, Cornelius Bennett, Willie Anderson, Ronnie Brown, Jason Campbell. So great legends groups from those two schools. We got Friday night. Our players are going to be rolling at 6 o'clock in front of the Candies Cavaliers and on the Mardi Gras route, parade route. They're going to be chucking probably around 1,500 autographed footballs. I think every player's got 15 footballs this year. So there's that. And then on pregame, last year we started a thing where we call it the path to the draft. We stopped the buses in the south side of the stadium on the Jumbotron side. And we, the guys will kind of like a red carpet walk into Hancock Whitney. And we encourage all the players to stop and sign and take pictures with the fans as they walk into the stadium. And I believe that's somewhere in that 11 to 11:30 time block. So if you want to get out to the stadium early, that's a new really cool thing.
All right, so this is my fourth Senior Bowl. It seems, is this the first time that it's converged with Mardi Gras? Like this is the first Mardi Gras parade in Mobile, and the Senior Bowl is part of it. That's got to be really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's the first time we've kind of overlapped. We knew that would happen. When we pushed back in the calendar, when the NFL added the 17th game, moving to an 18th week, we just tried to stay in line with between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl, which is where the Senior Bowl has always landed. So when we did that, we pushed back into Mardi Gras time. So that first parade, the city officials are telling us averages between 60 and 100,000 people downtown. So it's gonna be a big party on Friday night.
And we have a few more days before the game. How many tickets are left?
Right now we're sitting about a week out, about 4,000. So we're getting close. Like I think we sold 6,000 during game week last year. So we're tracking for a sellout. I think we're well ahead of where we were last year.
Now, and I know this is, can't hold anybody to this, but looking at the weather forecast about a week out, it says sunny and 60 on Saturday of February 4th.
Can't ask for anything better than that. You really can't. 60 and sunny's about as good as we can do the first week in February.
All right, we're talking with Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. This is Locked On Sunbelt, so let's talk about a few of the Sunbelters. I believe there's 8 or 9. We'll see if my memory serves me right. But let's talk about the local guys first. Let's start off with South Alabama. You actually have Jalen Wayne, who is from the area, and a wide receiver, and Darrell Luter Jr., a defensive back who's from next door in Mississippi and played at South Alabama.
Jay Wayne's, like you said, a Spanish Fort guy. Kind of a Senior Bowl legacy guy for us, with Reggie Wayne being one of, we put his uncle Reggie Wayne, the great Colts receiver, in our Hall of Fame a couple summers ago. But he came up under Jalen Tolbert. I think he learned a lot from Jalen Tolbert's experience. I talked to Tolbert the other day and said these guys are talking basically on a daily basis, him trying to get Jay Wayne ready to play in the game. And you talk to some people on the South Alabama staff, they say in terms of like physical talent, Jalen Wayne might be more talented than Jalen Tolbert. And Jalen Tolbert went the 3rd round last year. So it'll be a big week for Jalen Wayne. You don't see a lot of, probably the best player he went against all year was Darrell Luter, who you just talked about. He saw the best guy he saw all year in practice. So, Luter's a guy that's 5'11"-ish. He's got long arms for a guy his frame. So he plays like a taller corner. He's physical. He's been productive on the football. And this year he played a lot of the year with a club on his hand. So, and that's obviously not ideal for a guy that likes to get his hands on people as a DB. So, both those guys back in their familiar surroundings in their home stadium, they both should have a good week.
All right, let's take a time out. We'll have more with Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. He'll continue to preview where he thinks the Sunbelt players will be heading in the draft. But first, let me tell you about FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here, and we know the Super Bowl is coming up. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because they're the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers, join today to get started with $150 in free bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all of your favorite bets, from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same-game parlay. All in all, it's on a safe app, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's get back to Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's move to Troy. You do have a couple players from Troy. Jake Andrews, who moved from guard to center for the Trojans, and along with a hometown favorite, and I got a feeling he's going to be a media darling this year, is the all-time NCAA leading tackler, Carlton Marshall.
Jake, first of all, Jake is, he's played both guard and center, but I think his best home will be center at the next level. I think he's got a chance to eventually become a starter at that spot. Smartest guy in the program, talking to their coaching staff. He's going to be able to make all the calls and adjust to our week really well. I think he'll do a really good job of doing that. And he's gonna test well. He's gonna run sub 5 flat. He's gonna kill it on the bench press. So all the spring stuff will be good after the Senior Bowl. But he'll have a good week. I've been around him twice this past week at different events we've had, and he's really a stud. He's exactly what he's married. He's mature. He's like a grown man when you talk to him. He's what the NFL is looking for. He's gonna make an easy transition from being a college player to a pro, and then. And Carlton, I can see now that I've gotten to know him a little bit this week, I can see why Mobilians wanted him in the game so bad. He is really a really neat kid. All-time tackles leader. I mean, what more can you say? I mean, he's not the size you want. He's probably not the speed you want. So all the measurable stuff, doesn't stack up to where the NFL probably wants it. But at the end of the day, he's a really instinctive, productive football player, and the league's looking for football players too. So. There won't be a bigger cheerleader for Carlton Marshall than I will be this week, because I would love to see this kid go on and play in the National Football League and realize his dreams. And never underestimate a guy that's always been an overachiever and had a chip on his shoulder his whole life. Those can be powerful things. I think we're seeing it this year with what a chip on your shoulder can do with Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen surpassed everyone's expectations for him with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, those are the two Troy guys.
So as someone who scouts for the Senior Bowl and used to do it for the Patriots, Chiefs, and Seahawks, how do you train or maybe trick yourself seeing what Carlton Martial does on the film and all those tackles and always going up against bigger guys? He's never, it's always a mismatch versus, like you said, the measurables. How do you, try to square those two things together when they're divergent opposites?
Yeah, I mean, you would call a guy like Carlton an outlier in the NFL. And, it's one thing to take an out. I mean, you're going to have size standards. You can't just have a scouting process with, methodology, not have any size standards at any position. Right. You got to look at what's played in the league over time. And you have historical data points to show you what size, what speed, what arm length. I mean, all this stuff, factors into it. But there are outliers. The key thing is when you're building a football team, you got to be careful taking too many, or you'll end up with a team full of them. So, no, I mean, that's going to be the thing for Carlton is, he might not be able to overcome the size stuff in terms of being drafted, but I do think at minimum someone's going to give him a chance. He deserves that chance. So just like we gave him the chance to come down here and compete. So, he can only do what he can do. God made him the size he made him, and now he needs to go out and do what he can do. And that's, make plays in practice and make plays in the game.
And then you were talking about Jake Andrews' speed. Obviously, it's important running backs, maybe quarterbacks, but, everybody else, it's, wide receivers, safeties, corners, to be able to run. Why is it so important for, an offensive lineman to run a 5.0?
Well, the 5.0 isn't very important, but it means he's running fast, which means he can get out of the gates. When you're playing center, you got to have the initial quickness. If you're going to get out on the perimeter and lead a run, an outside run, you better be able to get out there. So it's more about, that than that, because you're never going to, who cares what these guys run a 40-yard dash in, but I do think it's indicative of how they can get out quickly. That's really the main thing. But if you run sub-5 flat as center, I mean, there's only a handful. There's maybe 10 offensive linemen in every draft class that run sub-5.
Right.
So, that would put him amongst the best guys in this year's draft.
We're talking to Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. Let's move on to Old Dominion. You do have Nick Saldiveri, an offensive lineman from the Monarchs.
Nick's got a chance to really jump. I think right now he's probably an early day 3 guy for most teams, that 4th roundish area. I don't think he's going to stay there. I think this guy could get up to the 2nd round when it's all said and done. Big frame guy, a big human being. He's got body quickness. I really think he could play center. When I watched his tape at right tackle, I just was watching a guy that I thought could play center because of his initial quickness, his lateral movement, his ability to get up on linebackers. I think he's one of those group of 5 small school type players that will really benefit from a week down here, like we saw Cole Strange from Tennessee Chattanooga make a big jump. I think Nick's in line to make a big jump after this week as well.
All right, let's move over to App State. You do have Camerun Peoples, who is, I think, is it Lineville, Alabama, all of about 2,000 folks. How many of those 2,000 are coming to the game? And then you have linebacker Nick Hampton, former Mountaineer as well.
Well, I hope they all come.
Right.
I hope all 2,000 of them are here. But, I've made the comparison to Cam Peoples with Derrick Henry, and I say that I'm not saying Cam Peoples is going to be an MVP candidate at all. But I'm saying he's 6'2" verified. The NFL scouts got him at 6'2", which is a really tall running back. And he's 225 pounds. He's a big dude. He runs a little upright like Derrick. He's not a great lateral cutter. Neither is Derrick. But Derrick's got nice feet. Like he's got some subtle avoidability, make you miss, and that's what this guy's got. And then what makes Derrick special is he's got a home run gear. You don't see many big backs that can take it the distance. And Cam Peoples has done that in college against some really good teams. Texas A&M, he ripped off a 48-yarder, and they really put the game away on the road against the Aggies this year, in which at the time was a massive upset. I think about Miami his junior year down playing the Canes. He just ran away from people. So, and then Nick Hampton has been our highest graded G5 defender all the way back to last spring. He's Don't think he's getting out of day 2. I think he's probably going to end up in the second round. He's long. He's got legitimate pass rush ability. He can play on rundowns. He's kind of an every down outside linebacker. So I think Nick's going to have a big week as well. It's a good year for the Sun Belt. I mean, I didn't even realize you said 8 players. I didn't realize that's how many we had. That's a really good year for a group of 5 league.
Yeah, one more. Jarrod Clark, defensive lineman from Coastal Carolina. Also, I really despise these great athletes who are also smarter than me. He was like on the president's list a couple of times at Coastal Carolina. It's really annoying that these athletes are everything, and I'm really not.
Yeah. Well, Clark is, Clark's an interesting prospect. He was a tight end when he got there, and he's one of these. He just kept getting bigger, so that he kind of outgrew or out-ate the tight end position. He's like 345 pounds now. He is a big body, and you can see the athleticism just in his stance. He's got really good ankle flexibility. Not many 350-pound men look really good in their stance. This guy looks really good in his stance. He's not just a plugger. He's not just a big body that's going to occupy blockers and keep his linebackers free. He's got upfield quickness. He has explosion. He can push the pocket. So there's a guy in Indianapolis right now who's one of the better nose tackles in football, Grover Stewart, who played at a small school in Georgia called Albany State. And, I was way too low on Grover when I scouted him for the Seahawks years ago. I learned my mistake. Like, this guy reminds me of Grover quite a bit. And it took Grover a couple of years to really, get himself entrenched in a starting lineup. But Jarrod's got that kind of upside. I really do. I think he's going to get drafted. He's going to make a team next year. But I'm excited to see what Clark could look like 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah, also, I may or may not hold a grudge with Clark. He bypassed my Syracuse Orange to go play for Coastal Carolina, as if being by the beach is a smarter move than, digging out of the snow all winter long.
How about this, Dave? How about this? So I talked to Clark this year because he and Isaiah Likely, who was in our game last year,
right,
I think was a 4th-round pick to the Baltimore Ravens, played a lot of football this year for Baltimore, had some big games for the Ravens. They're both from Massachusetts, right? I want to say. And I said, who recruited you guys? Like, who is this guy that is working at Coastal Carolina that goes up to Massachusetts and gets 2 NFL draft picks in the same recruiting class? And he goes, well, he's working for the LA Rams now. And I said, well, that makes sense. Like, if you're that good at what you do, like, somebody's going to find you. Like, what a ridiculous recruiting job that guy had to go up into Mass and get 2 NFL dudes down to Myrtle Beach.
I mean, I guess all you got to do is, take a picture from the beach and, in the middle of January and see if you can get them to come down here. Here's the sand versus the snow. All right, one more timeout before we get back with Executive Director of the Senior Bowl, Jim Nagy. He's going to rank his favorite Reeses candies coming up. Speaking of the Senior Bowl, get inside analysis from the hosts that covered the NFL's next generation in college and find out which NFL draft boards these players will be climbing, all in one location. Subscribe to Locked On NFL Draft for nightly live shows from the Senior Bowl on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, let's get more with Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Senior Bowl. Maybe most important, what's his favorite and how does he rank Reese's candies? I'm a big fan. Let's wrap it up here with Executive Director Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl. I'm a big fan of these, smaller school guys, the Tariq Woolens who you got behind you compared to the Auburn and the Alabama guys, which will also be fun for the fans. Are there some other smaller school guys, some G5 guys, or even maybe smaller schools that we should look out for this week at the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, there's a bunch. Those are always the most fun stories for me. And those are the guys that probably have the most potential to rise up, make the big jumps, like Cole Strange jumped 4 rounds last year.
Right.
And Christian Watson, similar. Christian Watson from North Dakota State. The whole league had that guy graded in the 4th or 5th round. I mean, people had questions about his hands and his catch consistency and everything. And has a monster week here, blows it out at the combine, and goes 34th overall to Green Bay. So, I'll say the Princeton receiver, Andre Yoshivas, has a chance to might be that guy this year. NCAA heptathlon champion, the 60-meter champion in the heptathlon, not like all 60-meter runners, but in the heptathlon event. He's got the fastest 60 ever. for the NCAA. So we're talking, and he's like 6'1.5", 210 pounds. So I think Andre's got a chance to make a really nice jump. I'm kind of cheating on you, Dave. I'm scanning the board right now with some of these like group of 5 guys. I've talked a lot about our FCS guys and lower, but like group of 5 guys, it's really a big school year. There's really not a ton of smaller school guys this year, but another guy, there's 2 more from kind of in our backyard at Tulane. I would say Tajay Spears, the running back.
Yes.
And then, and a lot of people know a lot about Tajay because he finished the year so well in that Cotton Bowl against USC, tore them up with like 5 touchdowns. But Dorian Williams, their will linebacker, is a guy that we've had our eye on for a few years now. We were over there at a game the COVID year, scouting a guy named Cam Sample, who came to the Senior Bowl, was one of our players of the game, went in I think the 5th round of the Cincinnati Bengals. And Dorian popped out then. I guess he was a sophomore, like running sideline to sideline, just blowing people up. And kid can really run. And he's going to be a fun guy to watch out here. He's a guy, again, I think, right now is probably safely in the 4th round because he's going to be a great special teams player. And that's where you start drafting those guys are going to be core special teams players. But I think after a week down here, I think Dorian could get up in that day 2 range as well.
Of course, you go after guys that are super smart and super athletic. You pick the Tulane guys and the Princeton guys, as this guy's all world athletically and, an Ivy League educated. Great.
Yeah.
For me. That's going to go well for me. All right. Can you rank quickly as we wrap it up with Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Senior Bowl? Can you rank your favorite Reeses candies?
I'm putting Sticks 1.
Wow, that may be a huge upset.
The Reese's Sticks are unbelievable. I might go Reese's Pieces 2nd.
Yeah, that's where I am.
I've always been, but the Sticks are like a new thing. I would have said Reese's Pieces, 4 years ago before I took this job 5 years ago. But now Sticks has surpassed that. In 3, the Take 5 is pretty good. The Take 5 has like pretzels and caramel and all sorts of good stuff in it. So I put the Take 5 in there.
So I'm hoping, the over-under is 5 to 10 pounds instead of, 10 to 15 pounds this week is what I'm hoping for. We'll see.
There's going to be a lot of product laying around that convention center and hotel. I promise you.
Yeah, great. All right. He is Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Senior Bowl. Really appreciate your time. Locked On Sunbelt. We're looking forward to having a great Senior Bowl and Senior Bowl week. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, Dave. Good to be on, man. We'll see you. I'm sure I'll see you a bunch this week.
All right, I want to take a special thanks to Jim Nagy, really doing me a solid, doing me a big favor by coming on Locked On Sunbelt. Some guy, he is swamped as it is, not only the week of, but the week before and even a couple weeks before that. And I didn't really get around to asking him until last week if he could come on the show. So I do appreciate it. I know how busy that he is. Please, if you're coming to the Senior Bowl and you're in the convention center, you're in Mobile, come on, stop by and say hello. We'd love to meet you. Once again, thank you so much for watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.